I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Adams County, Ohio Valley Vocation, or High, well, my tongue is so tied tonight with this mask on. I want to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bess?
Yes. If everyone would stand for the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't have any sheets. Did you see? I mean, you didn't receive any? Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Riley has moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dr. Shipley has seconded. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I have none.
Okay. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bess?
Yes. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes of the September 20th, 2021 regular meeting and the October 5th, 2021 work session.
So moved.
Mrs. Campbell has moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Davis has seconded. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Bess?
Yes. Now we are to the very favorite portion of our meeting. We as a board, this is one of the things that we enjoy the most, is when we get to see you students come out and we get to hear about all the good things that you guys are doing out in the building. So we're going to start out. I am going to ask Mr. Berger. You're first on the list? Oh, actually, I guess we're flip-flopping it. Mrs. Meals, I guess. On my list, I'm sorry, Deidre, they had Carl listed first.
That's okay. Carl was being very kind and letting me go first tonight. Last week, Mrs. Spires contacted me and asked if I would be willing to do a presentation tonight at the school board meeting. Specifically said it would be great if there was something positive to share.
Yes.
And I said, excellent, because we're focusing on kindness last week, and there's definitely some individuals in our school building that I wanted to recognize for their kindness. So first of all, I'm going to start talking just a little bit about our PBIS program, because we, in the last week or so, were told that we were once again awarded the Silver Award for our PBIS program, so we were very excited about that. We have been recognized, for the last 5 years. So the first 2 years that we started in 2016 and 2017. For 2 years in a row, we were recognized as in the bronze stage, the Bronze Award. And then this is the third year that we've been recognized for our Silver Award. And what our kids would probably recognize is the be respectful, be responsible, be safe slogan that we have. That is the basis of our positive behavior and intervention supports program. But mainly what that means is that we are focusing on the positive behaviors and the reinforcement of the behaviors that we want to see in kids, and try not to focus as much on the negative. So this year, we do plan on going for the gold with our PBIS. It's a long process. There's an application process. There's an inventory. We have to meet with state support teams. Mr. Brewer and our PBIS team that meets monthly, put a lot of hard work into our PBIS program. And I just, we've also been a part of a training video that was filmed a couple years ago. It's actually out on the Ohio Department of Education website. So for other schools in our state who want to implement PBIS, there's a training video that's out there, and North Adams Elementary is a part of that. They interviewed our staff, they interviewed some students, and we're very proud that we were asked to be a part of that project. And we've also presented at the state level. We've been requested to present at the state level in regards to our PBIS program. So other schools are learning from our kids and our staff on this behavior program and how well it works. Not to say that we're perfect by any means. We do still have to deal with negative behaviors. However, overwhelmingly, I get more positive office referrals than negative. And that is due to the implementation that our teachers and the efforts that they put in implementing this with fidelity, and it works. So we are excited that we got the silver award again. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, and then go into what we did last week was a Kindness Matters week, which was a fun week for the kids because we had themed dress-up days, but we also had announcements each morning and talked about kindness and how much it mattered. And the reason why we did this is because October is National Bullying Prevention Month. And taking that PBIS mindset of focusing on the positive instead of the negative, we wanted to educate students on how to be a good friend, how to treat others instead of focusing on the negative aspects. We want to teach people to have good character and the importance of being kind and treating each other with respect. So that's how we are approaching Bullying Prevention Month. So we did have some fun dress-up days last week, but more importantly, we talked with staff members and Mr. Brewer and I and Mr. Bloom, our counselor, and we asked for names of students that should be recognized for showing kindness and having good character traits, not just last week, but consistently all the time. And I could have filled this room and a few others with kids because we have wonderful kids at North Adams Elementary. But I had to limit it a little bit, so I only did 20, hoping that 10 would show up tonight. So thank you to the parents for bringing your kids out, and it just shows how at home you are stressing the importance of that good character and showing kindness, and I can see that by everyone who showed up tonight. Yeah. And that's the amazing thing about our school community and what sets us apart, in my opinion. So thank you, parents, for being here. I appreciate that. And your kids, by you bringing them here tonight, understand that you think it's important too. So thanks. So we're going to start with, should I do? I'm actually going to do 2 staff members first, and then we'll do all the kids, because I know picture-wise, we'll want to get all the kids up here, and it's going to be a little chaotic, and that's okay. Because I also wanted to put a focus on 2 of our staff members. Again, I could have nominated a lot more, recognized a lot more, but I had 2 ladies in mind who consistently add to the positive culture of our work environment, because we all know the last couple of years have been extremely tough for everyone, not just schools, but we have 2 staff members who go above and beyond in regards to reaching out to others, supporting one another, being tremendous role models to our students, because we have to recognize, and I think we do, everyone here does, because you're here tonight, adults are important role models to our students. And even though we think they're not observing all the time, they are. They're watching us and they're learning from us. And it's so important that we have these good role models, consistently modeling kindness and respect to each other. especially in public forums, such as schools and sporting events and Board of Education meetings. We need to be able to respect one another even when we don't agree with each other. And we try to teach that to our students through activities that we do at school and just in general modeling kindness and respect to one another on a daily basis. The two staff members that we have here with us tonight do that, and they do that very well. I have been the recipient of kind acts from both of these ladies, but I know that other staff members have as well. The first person I'd like to recognize is Miss Jo Davis. Jo is such a sweet soul, and she has so much empathy for other people. She brings sweet treats. I love cookies, they're great. Cards and words of encouragement. But not only does she do that in our school, she and her husband Rob, they do that through the basketball team with the girls. I've seen them go visit nursing homes. My own daughter with Peebles softball team, they had a deep run in tournament last year. They sent a plate of cookies and words of encouragement and support to that team. So showing support from one another. And that's huge because their players on the North Adams High School basketball team are seeing them do this. And they're making it a part of their culture. And when we do that with kids, they're going to go forth and do that themselves as adults. So Joe and Rob both are incredible community members that show support to our kids and adults in our schools, and I wanted to recognize Joe tonight for that. The other staff member that I have here tonight is Emily Young. Emily Young is a 6th grade teacher. She's our social studies teacher, and she's kind of in that pivotal role where she can talk about society and the rules of society and how we engage one another in like a historical a historical way with ancient civilizations, but then she does a great job of bringing it back to present day. And Emily has created the Kindness Club. It's been a part of the 6th grade for a couple years now, 3 years probably. We were kind of off last year because of COVID. But she always has some 6th graders that join the Kindness Club, and they take on a couple service projects each year. This year we brought back Socktober, which is going on this week. We are collecting socks that we will donate to the Adams County Homeless Shelter because we try to ingrain to our students that it's important to care about one another and help one another when they need help. And just that good feeling that you get when you help someone who's in need. Our Kindness Club does that. Emily also is one of those staff members that shares words of encouragement, small cards or gifts, just a little pick-me-up. The other thing that she does that really, because we love food at North Adams Elementary, we really do. She, the last couple years, has taken it upon herself to arrange our Food Truck Friday events, and it's something that our staff members look forward to in the warm months when we can get a food truck to come out. And it's not a fundraiser, it's just something that she does. She makes all the phone calls and contacts, and we try to put it out to the community as well, because it's not just for staff members, but for anyone who wants to come and participate. And we have another one coming this Friday. But Emily does that, and it's just adding to that positive work environment that we've so desperately needed, that positivity in the last couple of years. We look forward to things like that. So I wanted to recognize Emily for all her contributions to our school as well. So if I could have those two ladies come up, Miss Jo Davis, Miss Emily Young. I think that we have, let me see, are there certificates for them as well? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And I didn't know, Mr. Sees, do you want to present?
Take a picture.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Okay. Actually, Dr. Shipley is our student liaison for the board, so I'll have her come up and help present.
You want to, there's Emily. Emily, yeah.
Turn the certificate around.
Yeah.
There you go.
We have to remind the kids to do that too. And then that's Joe.
And then Emily, if you'll stay, we'll get one of all of you with Deidre in as well at the end there, a picture. Okay, Deidre, do you want to?
Deidre, I would just like to say something too. North Adams Elementary has also hosted some Shawnee State students as students in the classroom helping their students. And my students have all told me how welcome the teachers make them feel in that building. And that really means a lot. And everything she's talked about in kindness, they display that not only to their students, but also to guests in that building. And Emily's group, who had some of my students last year in 6th grade, they bought them all gift bags with highlighters and note cards and things like that. And to a teacher, that's a big deal. So I just want to compliment you on that as well, because you've gone beyond your students and your staff, but also welcoming other guests. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a reflection of my staff members completely. They're wonderful, and something to take away from that is that kindness doesn't have to be an expensive gesture. It's the smallest of gestures that often makes the most difference. So next we're going to get to recognizing the kiddos that are here tonight. These kids have been recognized for consistently displaying good manners and kindness towards others on a regular basis, and not just because we were focusing on it last week. These students that are here tonight are outstanding examples of good character and are very deserving of this recognition. We are very proud that these students are students at North Adams Elementary, and we appreciate the fact that they are also serving as good role models for other students in our building. So we'll start calling kids up, and we'll have Miss Shipley, Dr. Shipley. Okay. As they come up, should they line up? We might, Mr. Brewer, we might need someone to organize.
Just let them come up right in front of us. We don't mind if they block us, that way everybody can see them well.
All right, that sounds good. And then picture-wise, we'll
Yeah.
be back here afterwards, or?
We can, if that's what you want, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's get started. These are in no particular order. Well, they might be alphabetical, sorry. I just saw that. Apologize. All right.
Is that Tracy's OCD?
Oh, first student, Nora Akers. Brianna Cannon. Grace Crank. Tatum Crawford. JC Davis.
Come up here.
Messiah Eckert. I'm not sure if I saw. Addison Edelman. Luther Foster. Grace Glenn.
Right here, buddy. Right here.
Tucker Glenn. Macy Hensley. Oh, no, Lisa. James Hyatt. Mason Pace. Noah Pace. Liam Shelton. Sorry. Rylan Shively. John Smiley. Let's see. Ray Willman. Maverick Winkler. Adeline Young. Once again, I'd just like to state how proud we are of each and every one of you. And I hope that you remember this and that you go forth and continue to be good role models for our other students and adults as well, because we need more kids like you in our society. So thank you again for parents for bringing them out tonight. And again, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Students, if you'll follow Mr. C's, he's going to take a group picture of you right around the corner there.
That guy.
Follow Mr. C's right there. He'll get a nice group picture of all of you. Hopefully, parents, we can get that picture out on the website so you guys will all be able to see that as well. And hopefully, we don't think the paper's here tonight, but we will try to get those to them as well to get, because these students deserve to be recognized.
We decided we're going to take the kids outside to have their picture taken. So I know parents you're allowed to leave. You do not have to stay for the whole Board of Education meeting.
Before you leave, though, I do want to make a quick announcement.
Okay, but we'll be
before you
outside.
leave,
You get your kids outside.
just while everyone's in attendance, I do want to announce that the board will be hosting a Meet the Candidate Night, October 26th, from 7 to 9. We will actually be having the site available. Mr. Bowles from C103 will actually be emceeing and doing the Meet the Candidate Night. And we just want to make you aware, stay tuned for further details, but it will be on our YouTube. It will be on C103's Facebook page, as well as announced on the radio that night. So I just want to make everyone aware that that is coming up and going to be available to the public.
Now there's nobody here, Mr. Berger's presentation. There goes your audience, Mr. Berger. It's the people tuned in on YouTube.
Now we know why you were so generous to let Mrs. Mills go first.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Just think of all your internet fans that are probably watching.
Wow.
All two. Would you like another one? Do you want to wait for Mr. C to come back in?
If you don't mind, we'll wait just a few moments for Mr. C's to get the photograph and get back in as well.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't recognize her. Yeah, I didn't recognize her at all.
Okay, Mr. Berger, if you'd like to go ahead.
All right, good evening. My name is Mr. Berger, North Adams principal. Here with me today, I have Miss Napier. She's my BARR coordinator and librarian. So today I wanted to share with you how North Adams is changing their culture, all right? So we have systems in place to look at the kids holistically. We are building assets and reducing risk, as BARR indicates. Now, a teacher in Minnesota had some data issues, so she was looking at this, and so she came up with this program. And it's now implemented in 21 states, 118 districts, more than 200 schools, and has served more than 150,000 students. So every BARR school has seen notable changes in the first year of implementation, including decreased failure rates, decreased discipline referrals, increased attendance. And these changes occur because BARR is a transformational model that causes system-level changes. Now I want to scroll over to Ms. Schoenleben, a testament that she had. Pretty much sums it up better than I can. Same students, same teachers, better results. BARR's motto is beyond true for myself, my students, and my school. My first year teaching was also the first year that North Adams High School implemented the BARR program. All I know is BARR. But I'm glad that I was able to experience this from the beginning of my career. Throughout the BARR program, I, as a teacher, have been able to understand my students better, connect with them on higher levels than I would have without BARR, and also have built a great connection with my 7th grade team. This program allows me and my whole teaching team to look at each student and the entire grade week to week, discuss ideas to better our classrooms, instructions, and ourselves. Without the BARR meetings, I don't know how I would get through the school year. These meetings allow me to get ideas, validate my concerns, and share information with my fellow coworkers. The students enjoy learning about each other and have shared information during I times that would never be discussed without the activities provided through the program. Now, BARR has provided me with the ways to reach students that I would never have been able to do before. We are the same people we would have been, but through the use of BARR program, my students and I are better connected, which allows us to soar at new heights in education.
It's a great testimonial.
Okay, the picture there, it talks about the 2 pillars of BARR are relationships and data. And Mr. Berger will speak on the data piece in a moment. I just want to really focus on the relationship piece. And BARR allows you to foster every relationship in the building. And you can see there is teacher to teacher, student to student, and teacher to student. As far as like teacher to teacher, I mean, teachers talking about students is nothing new. I mean, teachers have always done that. But BARR takes those conversations from being very sporadic and informal, and it allows them to be very structured and systematic, and so therefore more efficient and effective at helping reach student needs. The student-to-student and teacher-to-student relationship are strengthened through what's called I times, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But the I times allow students and teachers to interact in a way that they hadn't previously in a traditional classroom setting. So they're talking about conversations, or they're having conversations and building bridges based on commonalities, experiences, and that allows students to be invested in their peers and for teachers to be invested in their students' lives beyond just in the classroom. Okay, so there are 8 strategies of BARR, and I'm not going to read all of these, all 8 there, but the ones that I feel are really the most effective at North Adams are strategy 1, which is focusing on the whole student. As teachers, it's very second nature to just see a problem in a student and immediately go into fix-it mode. Like, you have to fix that problem. But with BARR, the first conversation isn't about the problem, it's about the student's strength, the student's interest, and their experiences. And that seems obvious and simple, but when you first talk about not what is it that the student can't do, but what is it that the student can do, you can really leverage those to then build connections, build incentives just for that student. The other strategy there is strategy 3, which are the I times, which I'll again get to. Strategy 5, holding regular meetings of our teacher teams, are what allows BARR to be effective. Without those teacher teams meeting in a structured, organized way, we wouldn't be able to reach all of our students the way we do now. And then strategy 8, engaging the administrators. Believe it or not, having Mr. Berger or Mr. O'Hearn involved in the BARR process, you know, their input, their insight, their support with the teachers, you know, without that, we wouldn't be as effective as teacher teams, for sure, without the administrators' backing.
All right, the BARR program pretty much follows a MTSS, a multi-tier support system, and it also aligns with some of the systems that we already have in place. Ms. Mills alluded to the PBIS, positive behavior. So as you look at the pyramid, you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So tier 1 are your level 0s and 1s on BARR. Tier 2 is your level 2 on BARR when we identify the students, and tier 3 will be your level 3 as well. So PBIS streamlines along with BARR as well. Also RTI, the response to intervention, also aligns with BARR as well. As you can see, that arrow is moving up and down on your on the graph there. So with that being said, PBIS, I know Ms. Mills said she was a silver winner, and so is North Adams.
Yay!
So
Wonderful.
that means we do a lot of good things too with our tier 2 kiddos. And their goal for this year is working on those tier 3 kiddos. So, and that's usually your 5% that are, you know, have more issues than, you know,
Okay, I was going to ask that question, Mr. Berger, what the 2-tier and the 3-tier meant specifically.
Yeah, so your 1 tier is like, all right, you could give them supports, you're good. 2-tier, you got to give them a little bit more push, and 3-tier, we got to call in other people.
Okay.
And so that's where the gold comes in. So we're at silver. We had bronze last couple of years. We had silver last year, and now we're working for gold as well. So just like at the elementary, we receive their kids, and we continue that process. So that is, so how does this work in a nutshell?
Okay, so this is basically what a week of BARR looks like at North Adams, this picture. The first picture there is an I time. And I times are taught 1 day a week, and it is rotated from teacher to teacher. So 1 week, the language arts teacher might teach all of the I times in their language arts class. The next week, it may be the science teacher, then the social studies teacher, then the math teacher. That allows every teacher to build those connections with all the students. Then we have our small block meeting, and that is myself and the classroom teachers. And we meet once a week to discuss the level 0 and level 1 students. The level 0 students are those students who need no intervention. They are doing everything that's expected of them. They are excelling. They are meeting expectations. And so therefore we discuss them, and it's just a celebrate of their success. The level 1 students are those students who just need a little small intervention. Maybe they need to come up during lunch and have a reteaching in a small group. Maybe they just need a little bit of encouragement or a reminder about a missing assignment. But it's a very low-level intervention that's needed. The big block also meets 1 day a week. Bigger block, a little bit bigger problems, a little bit bigger interventions needed. The big block includes the same people in small block, but it also includes the guidance counselor and the administration. And that's where we talk about our level 2 students. Those are the students that may need just a more intense intervention, like maybe they need a check-in, check-out person. Maybe they need to have a one-on-one conversation with one of the administrators. And then the risk review includes the administrators, guidance counselor, myself, and pretty much anyone else we can wrangle in to help us. Whether that's the SRO, the school psych, school nurse. But the risk review is going to be addressing just a really small number of students. We call them level 3 students. And they are the students that basically need an intervention that goes above and beyond what the teachers can do in their classroom. So as you can see, from level 0 to level 3 with BARR, every student gets recognized, whether it's a positive, whether it's some intervention, whether it's some degree of support, but no student goes unrecognized or not discussed or slips through the cracks. So,
may I ask, when you talked about the level 3, I know we have talked about the implementation of the new program in conjunction with the health department, with the UC,
Yes.
with the mental health. Do you see that as something that you're going to be able to maybe use as an asset here to reach some of those students that maybe need some
that's
additional?
exactly an example of a level 3 student. And
Okay.
we have, how many have we already? Yeah, we have a handful that's already
Okay.
on the rotation.
So that
for
support should help. Good.
Yes, for sure. That is
That's good to-
exactly what the level 3
Okay,
students
that's
would
good
need.
to hear. It's good to hear that that program will assist with that.
Yeah. That's an example of what our spreadsheet would look like. So it's going to have grades, it's going to have the students' strengths, interests, connections to school, and then everyone's held accountable. We'll have on there the intervention that's needed for that week, and then who is responsible for that intervention. So that way everyone's on the same page. The I times, which you've heard me allude to a few times now, that is a set of curriculum that deals with social emotional learning. So the teachers can adapt and modify the curriculum, the lesson plans to suit their needs and styles. But the I times focus on things like goal setting, risky behavior, peer pressure, grief and loss. And those are some pictures of some I times. The top one is an I time called Rainbow in the Clouds that was delivered in a 9th grade classroom. And the bottom one is students were creating shields that represent different aspects of their life, and that was in a 7th grade classroom. So as you can see, these activities allow for conversations that wouldn't typically take place in an academic setting. And so because they are taught in the core classroom, it implies that teachers are invested in the student as a person, not just as a student in their classroom. Right. So the conversations, the connections that students are making with one another and with their teacher, that is then translated and transferred into their investment in the content area.
All right, and so looking at the data, so here we have your grade level failure rates, discipline referrals, and daily attendance. So year-end failure rates after year 1 of BARR dropped for both grades, even the year ending in COVID. During the 2021 school year, all 4 teams were able to keep pandemic failure rates below 20%, and both new teams, 8th and 10th, saw their failure rates decrease from the previous year. In other words, all 4 grades showed a decrease in the failure rates after their first year implementing BARR. So behavior incidences were also down 15.5% across the 2 grades, 7th and 9th, after year 1. During year 2, the whole school saw behavior incident drop 15.1% during that pandemic. So attendance, the 4 BARR teams were able to keep attendance rates above 92%. During the year of the COVID, while the 11th and 12th grade students' attendance dropped drastically. So everything is going in the right direction according to BARR standards. And also looking at this year, I could see a steady increase or decrease, however you want to look at the data, from this year too. So I know our discipline referrals last year, we had minors and majors, so we decreased the major events and increased the minors for like mass violations and stuff like that. So the numbers are going in the right direction. So back again, so BARR is basically our culture is just like Miss Mills, you know, the kindness, and we are building on that kindness in the high school. So hopefully we continue that path. And I know just speaking volumes of the teachers, because they have to give up 2 of their planning times per week to meet on these kiddos. So sometimes they give up their lunch. So they see the importance of it as well. Now, my other teachers that are not participating in BARR, like my special teachers and stuff like that, they want to know more about the kids too. And it's kind of exciting to see that interest in the kids, because based on scheduling and stuff like that, I can't get them in those meetings.
Right.
So it is really nice to see the adults interested in the kids as kids. So
I have a couple questions. Yes. Are you able to also, through this program, maybe identify some students that may need some additional help outside of school? And if so, are you able to reach out to community services then and help connect those? I mean, I'm wondering if there's a pathway for, you know, for that for some of our students.
That's an excellent question, Ms. Best. So basically, just like with the telehealth, that is where we have those tier 3 kiddos. You know, like with some of the church groups around there, we get with like Mr. Parks and stuff like that. So Mr. Taylor.
Wonderful.
So yeah, we reach out, and if anybody wants to come in that has some expertise in a field of social, emotional, academics, whatever it may be, we welcome that.
Okay, that's wonderful. It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Carl, I think what's, and to the board and to anyone here, I think what's most intriguing about this from the very beginning of this is what you just said, is how you're able to get staff to buy in, and you know, you're talking about staff missing the lunch, missing a plan period. They see the importance of it, and that is always just, it intrigues me, because it's very difficult to get that momentum going that way sometimes, but you guys have done that. And I know, Jennifer, I think you've been there since the beginning of the when the grant was brought in, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah.
Do you also see a student to student change and difference here as students understand this program and how it works, and understand that maybe, you know, that there are some kids that have more issues? And do you see students interacting with each other on a more positive role across the board? I'm interested to hear.
Yes, and I see
How
Mr.
it's
Young over
affecting
there
culture
shaking
to
his
culture.
head. Yeah, through the I times, we definitely have students that are engaged, having conversations with students they would not typically be interacting with, and that is creating a sense of empathy, compassion,
Right.
commonality, common ground. I mean, I think you're shaking your head over there. I mean, the I times are what definitely allows those students to be invested in their peers.
Good. That's
Rich, are we using the BARR program in other high schools or just North Adams?
No, we're just using that in North Adams, and they're using that in their version of the MTSS, which you guys, you know, I think Tracy, you presented that to the board.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the board, I would like to say thank you to both of you for investing so much time and effort into help making this, you know, a positive program. It always takes someone to take that leadership role and get things going and get that momentum going. But then even after you get that momentum going, as Mrs. Mills and Mr. Burr can tell you, they're back there too with any program, it's consistency to keep that up and to continue to strive to keep it new and fresh and keep staff and students, you know, interested in the program and to have that buy-in. So it takes good leadership roles for that. And, you know, we'd like to, as a board, recognize you guys for, you know, stepping out, because we know you give a lot of extra time as well when you take on these new programs, especially when you're first implementing. And it's great to see you guys not settling either. You know, every year you strive to do more and more and to make that program better. And And that sets a role for the kids. The kids see that. They see you as leaders in the school invested in them and these programs, and that means a lot. That means a lot to the culture of the building. And so we very much appreciate you guys for that and want to thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any blue sheets tonight for hearing the public, so we will move on to the treasurer's report business portion of the meeting. Mr. Schweitzer, if you would give us a quick review of A through F, please.
Okay. We're 3 months into the year, and your expenditures and revenues are on projection. You saw in your board packet, I believe there were 4 new funds maybe that Tracy and Regina and Mary Beth worked hard on that came through the ARP American Relief Plan as additional federal grants that we received this month.
That's wonderful.
We had some very generous donations once again from community members. And then there are 2 recommendations. The first one is to increase the substitute teacher rate of pay effective January 1st, 2022 from $100 a day to $120 a day. Mr. Grooms did a survey or participated in a survey with the Southern Ohio ESC and all the member schools, and we are near the bottom at the $100 per day, and we feel that is an attributing factor as why we're finding a lack of subs. There was one member school paying $150 a day. So we're not the highest, but we won't be the lowest any longer.
And if we could, for just a second, Mr. Grooms, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you just briefly address the shortage so that everyone is aware of the substitute shortage that not only Adams County, Ohio Valley, but all schools in the state of Ohio, and actually even in other states are facing right now? It's pretty much a nationwide problem.
Yeah, I think I addressed the board and sent you information that from news articles and from the state of Ohio who really raising awareness that this is a major issue across our country. There was a significant, I think it was 60-some% drop in kids going into teaching in this country. That's significant and causes problems for us hiring. And not just getting subs, it causes a problem for hiring. This year, I can go back out now to universities, and Johnny's one of the really good universities that we get a lot of good teachers from. But I go to IU and Miami and so forth. I go back to recruiting and trying to get those students coming out for math, science, intervention. Just real difficult to find. And grade levels at elementary, the 5th and 6th grade is really difficult to find. We're just part of the group. I mean, the whole country's lacking workers, and so we're just a part of the group that falls in line, having difficulty. Yeah. We have done really good here in the last, as you see on the information I gave you in the last 2 or 3 board meetings, we've done really good about getting people to come back and start sub-teaching.
Yes.
Which has been really good, and the advertising we put in the paper for age has been good.
Wonderful.
The issue that Mr. Schweitzer addressed about the sub-teacher rate, we're not at the bottom, but we're not at the top. But the problem is when we address the issue of sub-custodians, aides, when we raised them, which we should have,
right?
I mean, they were at $10 an hour, which a lot of other places are offering 15 just to come work for them. When we raised that, we didn't see that by raising that, our sub-teachers was making less money than the sub-custodians and aides was when they were coming in with an education.
Because they were doing, theirs is hourly, correct?
Yes.
Their rate of pay is hourly, where the teachers is a set per diem per day, and that's what skewed that. Yes, yes.
That was an issue. I think really that we're going to have to be really creative in the future with bus drivers, our bus drivers.
Yes.
It's just one, you'll see on the board again where a person was hired, she worked one day, she really didn't, she used to be a bus driver, said it's passing by, then she resigned, We've got 2 other bus drivers that just finished the training, still be able to come on board. I was too late getting one, the board did it for the night.
Okay.
But we really got to look, think outside the box to be competitive with bus drivers, because that's a nationwide problem.
I was going to say, you sent us an article, that's a nationwide issue as well. Actually, with all the articles that you sent us, Mr. Grooms, it's just further proof, and Tracy, you sent us one, well as not only intervention, but even special education classroom teachers, SLPs, all of our teachers, all of our staff, just like all the other industries, as you said, Mr. Grooms, that are suffering from lack of personnel. Schools are not exempt. Across the board, we are suffering a shortage in staffing, and which is, making things further difficult, because with the COVID and trying to space and actually needing sometimes more personnel, when you're short, it can get very difficult to get.
SLPs is really, I mean, we done well to get SLPs for this year. Tracy and I really worked hard on
Yes.
reaching out to many different organizations trying to get SLPs in here. And sometimes we were successful, and we thought we had it wrapped up, and somebody coming, and last minute some other district would offer more money or closer to home. And I mean, it's so competitive out there trying to get staff members. But I want the board to know that even though sometimes late in the summer when we can't find them anymore, it still is my focus to have highly qualified teachers in the classroom. That's always the focus that I have, and I know that's what you have. Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's not possible. I mean, I can't make people apply, and I can't make people take jobs.
Right.
Believe me, I try.
Yes.
And I try all kinds of angles to get people to take. And then our neighboring districts are very competitive about trying to get other people. I don't think that's right. We need to go to other districts and try to take their...
To recruit their staff, yes.
That's just not who I am. I just don't think that's the right thing to do. If they apply, then it's open game. Or if they call me, I think it's open at that point.
Right.
I can contact them and say, hey, when you come to BARR district.
Right.
And I think they should.
Absolutely, yes. And I'm guilty of using that lingo. I know when I first came to the board, the initials, I was like, holy cow, there were so many different acronyms, initials that we use. SLP is speech language pathologist. I mean, that's a term a lot of people don't hear. And those are the professionals that work with our kids that may need help in speech development, in language skills. And that is typically, sometimes it even has to be a contracted service, because we can't get someone full-time, because there aren't as many of those professionals available. And there was a shortage of them even before there was a shortage of other staffing in schools, so.
There is legislation out there that has not been passed yet that will allow the district, again, to make a decision on what standard we want to set to be a sub teacher.
Okay.
It hasn't passed yet, or I think it's went through on either a Senate or a House, but it hasn't passed, which would give us the opportunity to do what we did last year, say, if you have a 2-year degree, which our neighbor states allows currently,
Right.
we could offer that as a board and say, hey, we can take you to a 2-year degree.
Right.
Yeah, Greg, I was just going to say, last week I was in a state dean's meeting, and they were talking about that, instituting the emergency substitute teacher certificate again. So that's definitely happened. They were talking about where it was in legislation, and it looks like that's going to happen.
Right.
Because we run into that same issue with college students who want to quit going to college and start subbing, especially when they can make $120 a day. So It's kind of a double-edged sword, because, we need the people, but yet I want to see them go through and finish their career and become, highly qualified teachers, as you're talking about. So, but I know that is supposed to happen soon.
And I think at this time we have, somebody brought up the teacher at North Adams Elementary, student teachers. I think we have about 4 in our district that are really working out. We got several universities, from online universities, contacting me and saying, can we place you? We welcome that. I mean, it's always a tool for us to use to get those to stay with us. When they get the good, and I get recommendations from like the principals, assistant principals, saying, hey, this would be a good person to hire. So I contacted them way before school was out and say, hey, we'd like to see you stick around with us. We're going to have some more things. That's worked out well.
Grow talent within.
Yeah.
Good way to grow
Right.
talent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Shipley had said when they were having trouble, placing students, I think we recognize that getting those teachers in our building is an opportunity for us as well, for those teachers to see what Adams County has to offer. Because as you said, Mr. Grooms, I know I come from healthcare, and we went through the same thing with shortages in healthcare, and sometimes it's difficult to get people who are not from a rural area to come to a rural area to work. We're used to commuting to, Cincinnati, to the larger areas for work, because we've grown up and that's part of the culture of Adams County. A lot of people drive out, but people who live there typically aren't used to driving out to the more rural area in reverse. But sometimes when you make those relationships and those connections, it's enough to make that difference. And we've even had, several new folks locate to Adams County once they've, gotten here and gotten used to the atmosphere and the culture. So I think that student teaching component is a really important tool. As Mr. Riley said, for us, not only do we have to support our own kids in our county who are interested in education and help foster them, but we also want to welcome those students from other areas the opportunity to come in and experience us. So I appreciate the schools that have opened up and the staff that's helped make those student teachers feel welcome, because that's part of our success. Mrs. Young, you guys have had them at North Adams Elementary. That's part of our success at getting good teachers back here, is that feeling welcomed and fostered and mentored in the buildings. So.
Well, and I'll just say another thing that we're going to run into is because of COVID last year, a lot of universities did not place their students in classrooms. So you're going to see people coming to job interviews that have not even been in a real classroom. And that's a scary thing, because learning to teach over a computer is not the same thing as being in the classroom. So I am so thankful for our district taking Shawnee State students last year, because not only did you guys get the extra hand, but you got to see what they're like in the classroom. Because when we have meetings about students, we do the exact same thing that you're doing in the BARR program. When we have students who are struggling, we meet with them, we work with them, we try to provide them the right supports and give them more experience. So we're going to see a whole group of graduates that, worked virtually last year for their field experience, and that's a scary thing when you're hiring. So the more we can have them in those face-to-face situations, the better we will be.
Okay.
The second item or the last item on my listing, the agenda, the August 30th board meeting, the board adopted a COVID bonus payment for staff. And there was criteria for earning the different levels of payment. We've worked through over 800 employees. About 616 of them qualified for payment. The ladies in payroll worked all weekend in order to make this happen. The payment will go out this Wednesday if nothing trips us up here in the last few hours. But while working through it, the central office and the board members received a lot of phone calls about, do I qualify? Why don't I qualify? Did you think about this? Did you think about that? And we have a lot of dedicated employees and subs in the district who said, I came in to work and you were so short of subs. I took on 3 classes that day. So my attendance record only showed that I worked 1 day when I did 3 days worth of work. So the board wanted to recognize these type instances and had a large discussion at their recent workshop. So in the original announcement, the board was going to make a payment to any sub who worked 60 days or more, but recognizing that we had 19 people who had between 52 and 58 days, we had the 2 week of shutdown, and they took on numerous classes, assignments every time they showed up. It's recommended that the board do a second round of payments to recognize any sub who worked between 30 and 59 days in the fiscal year 21 school year. The board also had a discussion about retirees who did not participate in any kind of incentive program, worked all through the COVID, but decided just this summer, I need to leave. We have a list of 7 people there. So far, only 2 of them qualify, but the board wants to make a payment to those employees also. And the last thing, and this is a big one, because a lot of our community members who are not employees are very dedicated to the children and the programs that we offer here in the district. So the board wants to make a payment to any non-employee person who coached at least one position or was the leader of one position on the supplemental schedule during the fiscal year 21 school year. Realizing though that we have the holidays coming up in November and December, it's not feasible to do a separate payroll in November or December. So we're requesting that these payments for the second round accompany a normal payroll cycle in either November or December, but it will be paid before year end. And further, like I said, we went through over 800 employees, 616 were found on round 1 to qualify. If by chance we missed anybody, and I'm sure Wednesday, if the payment goes out Wednesday, somebody's going to call and say, relook at me, you can't take this into effect? If we did by chance miss anyone, we will catch them up the same time we do this second round.
Okay. Okay.
So most of those people are not going to be on that regular payroll cycle, right?
Right.
It's people who've retired and all the...
Well, so far there's only 2 that qualify there, so that's not that hard. But on the off-the-street coaches, so far we've identified 38 and still going through. Yeah. That's why it's going to take a little bit of work to enter those people, but we will get it done.
Okay.
Thank you for all the work on this, and share with your staff.
The ladies in the payroll department, they started at 8 o'clock Saturday morning and worked till about 6 or 7 Saturday night. We're back in again 8 o'clock Sunday morning, worked about 6. I think I got my last email from them at 6:20 Sunday night that all the data entry had begun, and now that the program was processing it.
Okay.
So they put in a long weekend.
So thank you very much to our ladies in payroll, and I know that's Mrs. Smither, Mrs. Kell. Do we have our EMIS for any of those people?
EMIS was not there, but
okay.
We did use the consultant. K-12 Consulting works with about 400 districts in the state. And when you broach the topic, let's do a bonus payment. Well, you have to then go to the retirement systems for approval. 2 retirement systems work with schools, and of course they can't agree.
Right.
STRS will recognize this bonus payment as salary, and so retirement gets held out of it. SERS, their guidelines say bonus payments do not count as salary, so there's no retirement held out of it. So it required two separate sub-programs to process this.
Wow.
Well, K-12 Consulting had written such a program. We purchased the program. We already have a working relationship with K-12 because we bought their 5-year forecast package that was a vast upgrade to the prior one we had. So the K-12 consulting person was actually here on site Saturday morning. He got here at 8 o'clock and he left about 4:30 Saturday. So he was here 8.5 hours himself on Saturday, overseeing and making sure that everything went smooth.
Because it virtually had to go through 2 complete systems, so that was twice. So
that's double the work. Doing the STRS side one day, the SCRS side the next day, then getting uploaded to HCC, our computer host, and making sure everything linked.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So yes, lots of behind the scenes work going in there to help implement that program. So thank you to that, Mr. Schweitzer, to you and the staff for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing them then, I would entertain a first and a second.
I so move.
Mrs. Campbell has moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Davis has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Riley,
Yes.
Mrs. Best.
Yes. Okay.
One last comment I'd like to make about on
Yes,
the
sir.
sub rate of pay. Even though last school year was a COVID year and it distorts your projections statistics, we used 2,373 days of subs that we were able to obtain last school year.
Wow. Yeah.
So using that with the $20 projection, we spent last year about 240,000. We would spend 275 now, 276 with this raise in pay, and hopefully it addresses the shortage in subs.
Okay.
But Brian, I think that's down from we
That's
had
down
a
from-
lot of staff members that didn't take off because
Yes.
of the COVID situation, so that's the credit of the staff, yeah.
It's important to note that that $40,000 difference on a short year is not going to be reimbursed or come in from anywhere else. I mean, it has to come from somewhere else in our budget.
Correct.
That'll be
Your general
the
fund will
finance
have to
committee
absorb
working
that
through that.
expense.
Right.
Has to come from somewhere.
Yes. Okay, at this time, we are to the superintendent's report. Legislative, Mr. Cease, do you have anything to bring to us legislative this evening?
I do, and this would be something that I could talk about for a long time. I think I sent the board the backpack bill.
Yes.
I believe
Yes.
I did. And
Yes.
of course, I have to go back to, it was early in my tenure at Coldwater where there was, there was discussion of choice. And I remember receiving at home a little flyer from K-12 Academy. And I remember standing in front of the staff, talking to them then. Now this is about 2003, 2004, about there's choice out there. We're not the only, store out there. In other words, public education, it's very, very competitive. And I think we've all seen that, witnessed that. Well, if you look at that bill that's proposed, the backpack, it's called the backpack bill. And I think the board knows this. year before, I went up and testified at the state on choice in the voucher. It is a very, very much a hot topic. And there's a lot of dollars and cents tied to it. And I think what I wanted to do, and I could go on and on about this, but I'll be good. I did put in front of you a legislative packet from OSBA. So if you look in there, like let's say on page 4, we are as members of OSBA, they're kind of the public education entity out there that many schools belong to, Ohio School Board Association. You'll notice in there what it says about vouchers. But in that document that I've given you, there's a lot of other topics that are covered that you will see when certain legislation comes up. But certainly this backpack bill is a hot topic. I think for those of us that have been in education a long time, you take money and you give it to a private entity, but then the question is, do they get to play by the same rules? Do they have to do the same things that we do in public education? So it would be looked at as being unfair, and you'll see that as one of the things that OSBA talks about. But like I said, I could go on and on about that bill, but again, as I always say, I think I ended that email to you, stay tuned, as this will be, looked at and discussed with some intensity. A couple other things worth noting. There is a bill right now, it's House Bill 368, which would permit school districts and schools to establish their own policies for weighted grade averages of courses completed through the College Credit Plus program. I think the stance here from OSBA would be, they would be a proponent of this. This bill has been proposed by Adam Byrd. Adam Byrd was recently served as, I believe 2 years ago, as a superintendent at New Richmond. So we'll keep an eye on that bill. That is something that's been batted around ever since the CCP has been available. The other one is Senate Bill 181, which it's not, I mean, it's one which would establish the restrictions on policies that prevent students from wearing religious apparel when competing on participating in interscholastic athletics or extracurricular activities. And I noted this in one of our OHSAA documents here recently. Just want to make mention of that. This is exciting news. You know, this year here in the building that you're in, we have about 70% of our juniors or so, 75% of our juniors are attending school here at the CTC. And so there's a bill proposed now, it's Senate Bill 166, which would establish the Student Pathways for Career Success Grant Program and require the state to create a program that establishes financial incentives for Ohio businesses to provide work-based learning experiences for students enrolled in career technical education programs. The bill would permit career technical schools to use remote or digital learning. So, and I think for me, this is exciting times because I truly am I'm an academic, but whether it was TriStar Career Technical Center back at my previous district, having a kid that has gone through a program here and seeing the benefits that he's received from it, it's a world of opportunity. Really, it is. Mm-hmm. So I want to bring that to your attention.
May I ask a question about that program? Would that open that up to be more, where it could be structured more almost as what a lot of people used to call kind of like a co-op program, where they would have a certain amount of online education while being exposed to the technology? Or is it more still like what we do here, where we do like maybe a half a day of classroom and then a half a day, just open up more avenues?
I think that's what I envisioned from, I don't have the details of the bill, but that's what I envisioned from the digital part of it. It gives you that flexibility to then go out to the work site. And, you know, we do some of that right now with our students.
Right.
So,
right.
It would incentivize businesses to use them.
To be more, to be more interactive with us, yes.
Yeah.
So I will, as you know, some hot topics come across, I'll pass those along to you, and those are a couple of the latest and greatest. I want to share something with you. We saw some positive tonight, and I'll leave names out of this, but this made my morning, certainly. It says, I wanted to take a minute and touch base about and I'll just say a student, and it has to do with the program that's here that we started a little while back, the ECE program. He's been doing an amazing job with us, and I'm so grateful that you allowed him to do this. He is attentive and stays off his phone. And this is, let me put this in perspective. It's from a teacher in an elementary that is utilizing a student from the ECE or the preschool program. So let me slow down here and give you the perspective. So a student that's in the ECE program is in a classroom working with another teacher. He puts in 110% into every task we ask him to do. If he anticipates we will need something, he just takes care of it. For example, during planning, he makes copies for my class, and often the teacher's class, as he's planning and lunches are shorter than everyone else's, he automatically divides, delivers, and places them where they should be. He is respectful during the whole group instruction and pays attention so he knows how to support students. As soon as students move into independent work, he is up assisting. He has learned how to assist students so that they formulate the answers on their own, and he doesn't tell them the answers. He helps keep their data folders up to date. He has been a tremendous help, and quite honestly, we don't know what we would do without him. So, you know,
That's
again,
wonderful.
you think about when you start a program, like when, you know, the EC and some board members were on here, we started that program. It's serving
I think
our
it's
serving our
what, 2-3
students.
years old now?
I believe it's about 3 years old.
2-3 years old.
Yeah. I know time escapes me.
Flies by.
You know, the welding program that we started here.
Right, they started at the same time.
I mean, it's good to get those kind of emails.
Absolutely. And with our staffing issue, that's, you know, again, that's helping to grow our own. These students are typically fostered into early childhood education as a teacher or as a teacher's aide for the classrooms. So, you know, it's a positive programs where the kids have the opportunity to actually have that education before they get out. And what we see with a lot of our students is some of our students work as teachers' aides as they work toward their early childhood education degree as well. So it's a nice opportunity to be able to help foster some students that might not otherwise be able to go to college because of financial concerns without this program. So I'm excited to see here that we're getting such positive feedback, and that our students are really, it sounds like, excited and learning in that program. So that's great news.
I think Mrs. Hoop does a great job in that program.
Yes.
So that's legislation skipping into education. To share some numbers with you, I believe the board members received the quarantine, the absence numbers today.
Yes.
I think you can see that they're looking much better. You know, you've got, you know, the 7 schools, you've got 7 quarantine, 1 quarantine, 3, 1, 10, 13, and 8. Again, as I would always do, it seems like it's an everyday occurrence. Well, maybe not every day, but almost every day, every other day. Talking to Dr. Blitzel, there's some, I think you read about the pilot program in Warren County.
Warren County, yes.
Where they're, you know, if you get contact traced, then you get tested. You can come back to school the next day, you wear a mask, and then on day 5, 6, or 7, you get tested again. And it sounds like it's been met with some pretty good results. But again, I'll say that stay tuned. I mean, I think ODH is probably, like any entity, is getting beat up pretty good for the quarantine that's going on. So, but our numbers are looking good, and I'm grateful for that. So I just wanted to share that with you. The let's see.
And that study you referenced in Warren County is ongoing, so that's a matter of waiting on data collection. They'll actually have to have a period of time where they can do data collection and see, as they implement that program, what its success rate is as far as re-exposure and that. So typically, like you and I talked about, Mr. C's, in this COVID world, timeframes have varied on those studies, and we really don't know yet. Although we've received information, we haven't received a definite deadline on when a decision will be made on that program or any of that, but we are keeping our eye on it to see, you know, what that looks like and what the data collection looks like.
In the world of elementary, I hope the board takes a look at a lot of the reports, and I appreciate you administrators, you know, turning these in, and I know it's busy. I know that was one of the emails I didn't like to get as a principal. It's like, there's another board meeting. So I figured out a way to keep up on that when that secretary from the central office would say, send me that report. But I'm gonna pick on just pick on the newbie here a little bit, Miss Wagner, and just go down some of the things that, and it's kind of affected some others. They held a productive meeting at an elementary principal meeting, dug into the K-3 literacy scores. I know I sat through an elementary meeting. It's always refreshing see that the mixing of poor Ben. You know, he's the only guy in there, but you got Ben and Deirdre and Amanda and Katrina. Held an Envision math training for K-8 teachers, organized and held a 504 meeting for administrators, which attended that. That was great training. That was something that we needed. Began a pilot program for West Union High School teachers for Reading Plus to address reading deficits in middle school focus groups. Continue to work with Tracy Spires and Danielle Poe to ensure a successful roll out of the UC Health mental health program. Held the first district literacy team meeting, began process, you know, the ELA textbook adoption for 2023-24. So I could go on, but again, there's a lot of stuff in those reports. So I really hope that you guys do get a chance to take a look at those, and just like you witnessed here tonight, you know, I for one am a parent, and you know, I know I send my kids over to Peebles, and everybody wonders, why'd you pick Peebles over the other two? Well, the son that moved down here as a senior wanted to run in that same division. And Peoples happened to be in that division, and that's how it played out. So it wasn't that I favored one versus the other, but that's how it was decided since we moved our senior boy. But I think you could see her tonight. You would want your kid to be in that environment. You would want your kid to have the opportunity maybe to understand kindness and to be in that culture. And truly, Kyle and Deirdre, there is a video out there on ODE, and it's pretty special. Mm-hmm. And again, it's knocking down that mentality that we're not just Adams County. We can do. Our kids can be successful. They just have to be given that opportunity. And I think we've seen that in many, many ways. So hopefully we can continue to do that. So that would be education, Charlie.
Okay. And I don't see anything on the agenda tonight under facilities, transportation.
The only thing I have for
security,
facilities.
do you have anything to bring?
You guys have that RFP.
I have a question if the RFQ went out yet, if it's live.
Right.
Request for qualifications on renovation of bachelor property.
My understanding it was live. So Greg, do you have conversation, or Brian, do you have conversation with Steve?
I saw that where it had been released in print and it's sent to the newspapers.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought from that last email we got from Mr. Wolf that was.
So that's just working ahead of possession of the new facility, of what kind of changes we're going to need to make so we can have all that. We can have a contractor lined up to do that work, and a budget assigned, and a plan for the current conditions of the construction market.
Right.
And I do have in front of me, Steve was able to get some quotes for new roof on the central office building. And so I don't know, Charlie or David, has he spoke to you about an F&T meeting? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Something that we're really struggling with right now, I think the supply chain, I think everybody understands that.
Absolutely.
And I had Chris just write up something here, and I sent you an email the other week regarding that. But, and I think, in Deirdre, for instance, you and I spoke today about, you got the grab and go going on. We could not find paper sacks for the grab and go. So, problem solving 101, we were able to, you and Haley and I were able to talk, and we were able to work through that. But as we make our way through the 2021 school year, our challenges in the field of nutrition continue to grow, school nutrition continue to grow, along with all the other pandemic-related challenges that we have dealing with over the past 18 months. We are now dealing with the supply chain issues. The out-of-stock items have hit incredibly high this year, a high that I have never experienced in 16 years I've been in this field. Outages are occurring with both food items as well as supply items. My department and I have been working diligently over the past few months to make substitutions to ensure that students will be able to continue to receive their meals. Each week gets a little worse. I've been working very closely with the vendor representatives along with the food brokers to ensure that we stay on top of the situation. USDA, ODE, the Office of Child Nutrition have been trying to assist as well, and they hope that it'll be corrected soon. But I guess on a personal as a parent note, my kid kind of liked the General Tso the other day, so I guess that went over like a hit, and the Salisbury steak. So I don't know. They said, Dad, can you get more General Tso? So I'm like, I'll see what I can put in a good word.
But just that's a note too to parents to know if your kids come home and say, at lunch at school today, we didn't have what was on the menu. That could be due to the fact that there was a supply chain shortage, and she had to substitute that for something else. And we had spoke about this, Mr. C, that it might be good to let parents know, so if they've got kids coming home and say, I didn't get my breadsticks today, that parents have a heads up that she's not just randomly saying, oh, no breadsticks today, that, we along, again, nationwide with other schools are facing some of these issues as.
There was an article on the news over the weekend, said expect a styrofoam carton and aluminum foil shortage before Thanksgiving.
Oh my.
Well, there'll be a shortage for sure because everyone will go buy it
Everybody will rush out and buy it.
Okay.
They want more money.
Okay, Mr. C's?
In my previous job, I had to be superintendent transportation director, so I did that for 12 years. So I I truly appreciate what Tabby and Melissa Baker are doing over there. There's a program that I asked Melissa to participate in when she first took in, and it's the MTA program. It's the Master of Transportation Administration. So she'll be finishing up this is a 3-year program. She'll be finishing that up. Tabby is in her first year into the program. She also just passed her pre-service certification.
Good.
So that's all good. And I think, Greg, you already mentioned, a couple of drivers. I think we've got one coming on. It's going to be a regular driver. One's going to be a sub. But, let's not forget here, not too long ago, we moved that from 4-hour guarantee. We went to then dual routing, which was the right thing to do, in my opinion, and the board agreed. So we've got them 6 hours guaranteed. So it actually pays them for what they're driving.
Right.
But there are all kinds of different animals out there to incentivize drivers. So, perhaps some of them that may not even drive the 8 hours, they give them the 8-hour guarantee. So, I like to think we have, I was at a cross-country meet Saturday, just looking at our buses lining up against other buses. I think we have the best looking fleet out there. And this board has been committed to buying buses, where we buy 3, 4, 5 buses. And our buses are good. And now, of course, that one hot day or that really hot day in the summer, they would have preferred it to be a little air conditioned, but it wasn't. But all kidding aside, our bus fleet looks pretty good. Appreciate what they're doing. I'm going to read something. I don't know that, well, first of all, I'm going to say this, Mr. Grooms. I'm going to commend you in front of everybody. I know you had a little discussion earlier, but Greg works really, really hard to try to get staff. He's got a lot of connections, and you hear him over there talking to various people, and he has connections that I do not have. He has those relationships that I do not have. So, we go back and forth, and he vents to me about, what are we going to do? We can't find this person. And of course, we do the best we can. So I appreciate that, Greg. Thank you. If I want to read something to you, because I think it's important. And Mr. Parker, is he around here? Is he?
No,
Okay.
He is in the building somewhere.
I will give his report, but here's something that you get on a safety report. Okay, for instance, I get this, and I asked for these back, and somebody in the room here may recognize this one, but anyway, announcements were made by the assistant principal that the school is going to conduct a lockdown drill. He advised the staff to take appropriate action, securing doors, blinds, instruct students what to do. He also announced that now is the time to talk to your class about what to do when you are outside of the classroom and building. Thomas Putnam activated the emergency pull station located in the lunchroom. The audible alarm activates intercom. The blue emergency lights activate through the interior and exterior building, and all the fire doors were released and closed correctly. Key cards worked correctly in the exterior doors while the lockdown alarm was activated. All parties conducting the exercise cleared the building, including each classroom. All classroom doors were barricaded very well. Announcements were made by the principal that this school is at a lockdown drill. He advised the staff and students that why we do conduct drills. He also announced that now is the time to talk to your class about what to do when you're outside of a classroom in a building. So this is an example of what goes on, and it started back in, I believe, 2015-16 year. Most of us that are a little older in here, we remember having a fire drill or a tornado drill. But back in 15-16, they started safety drills. So our kids, they're pretty good. They know they've been run through some different situations, and so I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. I don't know if you ever heard that before.
Thank you. Yes, and it's good to hear. I know that Mr. Parker and Mr. Putman, our SROs, they all put it, as long as our staff as well put an emphasis on, working with the kids on the safety drills. And I know there had been some discussion about, that's a particular problem. That sometimes, kids might not know what to do if they're, let's say, outside a recess when a lockdown is implemented. Then what do we do if we're outside? And they work with going over those, and they're continually looking for new programs and new ways to work with the kids and the staff to improve, our safety. And that's something that has to be, ongoing, because I know there's a lot of people involved in that, because there has to be continual surveillance of things as simple as window and door locks, to make sure that one of those hasn't broken or there isn't a fail there. So when we have these drills, sometimes they catch some things like those that we might not think about happening as part of a safety drill. You might think, oh, that's a minor thing. Well, if you need that door locked at a time of a lockdown, and that, that can be critical.
And my favorite story is,
sometimes it catches even the small things that might.
well, and the kids are really good. My favorite story is the one where the superintendent down at Manchester,
Yes.
Brian Rao,
Yes.
was coming up to People's Elementary, and he was with another gentleman and didn't have a badge on. So the kids ran the drill. He was
They
not-
recorded them.
They did.
There's two strangers here, and we don't know who they are, and that was great. That even though it was a fellow superintendent, it showed that the kids were paying attention to what they were learning. So, okay. Anything else, Mr. Cease? Okay. If not, do we have a need for executive session at this time? Okay. Hearing none, our next portion is personnel, and we have some resignations there to address, as well as a new classified contract, classified subs, certified subs, and supplemental. We have several folks on the list here. I don't think there's any need for anyone to be separated out on this one, so I would entertain a motion for items 1 through 5.
So moved.
So moved, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have Mr. Riley, I believe that was you who moved, and Dr. Shipley seconded. Any questions or concerns about anything on this list? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes. Okay, and number 6 is employment of a partial year certified partial contract for James Davis, who did need to be separated out. I would entertain a motion and a second to vote on Mr. Davis, and that is for VOAG instructor at North Adams High School.
So moved.
Mrs. Campbell has moved. I need a second. I'll second. Are there any questions? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we are to administrative advisory. And I'd entertain a motion and a second.
I would like to mention to the board that there's some policies coming your way, but in the event that Mr. Schweitzer was out there for a while, we've got a little bit of homework to do on those, so we'll have all
Okay.
those ready at the next
Okay.
board meeting.
Okay. So under administrative advisory, I entertain a motion and a second
So moved.
for a child it's actually for the child nutrition policy statement is that policy that we're looking at tonight. Mr. Davis has moved. Do I have a second? I'll second. We have committees, for anyone who might be unfamiliar, of board members. Typically, we work in twos, and we work on separate areas. That way we can break down. We can have 2 board members that sometimes can do some more research, look more closely into different areas. Mr. Davis and Mrs. Campbell represent us for the advisory policy. They dig down a little deeper into it and then bring that information back and try to let the rest of us as a board know. Do either of you have anything you'd like to comment
Well,
at
that's
this
what
time?
I was trying to find, because we haven't discussed that one, so
Oh,
I was
okay.
trying to look at it a little bit, but that's okay.
But is this
Is
a
it just a
standard one
first
from
reading?
OSBA that just needed an update?
Okay.
Okay, and sometimes that's basically all it needs with OSBA. You do need to update, because typically if there are major changes, it's because it's something we're addressing, because we find that maybe the policy isn't working correctly, or because OSBA has maybe made a change, has recommended a change because of changes in the ORC. So, so no new changes on the child nutrition policy. It's an update. Okay. Anybody else, any further questions, input? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Old business, is there any old business to come before the board at this time?
I just have down that November 7th, 8th, and 9th
Yeah.
is the Capitol Conference
Yes.
in Columbus. You've all been registered. If for some reason you cannot attend, I would need to know by the morning of November the 3rd, that Wednesday, in order
November
to
3rd.
reassign your registration and room to somebody else.
Okay.
And then November 22nd is your next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Okay.
When do you need to know if we're not going to be able to attend?
I need to
By
know
the
on
3rd.
Wednesday the 3rd, because OSBA then will let me change the names on the 4th to change your registration to somebody else's and your room to somebody else's.
I intend to not attend, but give my reservation to whoever's elected on November 2nd.
Okay?
Okay.
I actually got the registration packet today.
I did as well. I
I'd
received
say
mine
everybody
today.
probably did.
Okay. For anybody who might be unfamiliar, Capitol Conference is held each year, and it is a program to allow school board members to go and receive updates from the state board, and we are also able to go to work sessions where there are other schools, other OSCs, many different avenues that present policies, everything from facilities, anything that involves schools are presented there to give you, if you have an area that you're working with and you feel like you need some new information, that's always available there. Actually, Dr. Shipley is going to be presenting. One is in conjunction with her role at Shawnee, and one for more related to our district here as well. So she's going to be presenting this year in 2 of those programs so we appreciate that, and we thank you, Galen, for doing that and getting our name out there. There's some good things are happening in Adams County, and that Adams County not only has some good things going, but we can be a leader in some new ideas and pathways in the state. So that's always a positive thing. And then there's a large trade show as well that you can attend, and school personnel, especially like facilities and those type programs, child nutrition. There's stuff on the new stuff out on intervention where staff can go and also receive new information and education on schools and what are available to schools. So it's usually a very good program, an opportunity to get some new knowledge and some new ideas to bring back for discussion. We may have need for a work session. We're waiting, as Mr. Riley said, for Mr. Wolf. He and Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Carter are working on getting some information pulled together with the architect prior to, but if he gets that available before November 22nd board meeting, we may have need for a work session to look at some of that, to get that business started and help them move forward there. So,
November 22nd, would that be at 6 o'clock here also?
yes, 6 o'clock at the CTC, November 22nd.
Yeah, I can do 6 o'clock.
Okay, Is there, and at this time I have, is there a need for an executive session at this time? Hearing none, if there's no other business to come before the board at this time, I would entertain a motion and a second for adjournment, but just once more before we I take those motions, I do again want to remind everyone that the board will be hosting Meet the Candidate Night. We have some candidates here in our office, in our audience this evening. And thank you for attending, and public and now our candidates that are running are always welcome to come and attend. It's nice to see you coming out and trying to get some information ahead of time. So if elected, you'll be able to hit the ground running, so to speak. So that's appreciated. See you guys in the audience tonight. And I know some of those who might not be in the audience will be watching on YouTube as well. So appreciate those people who are taking the time to try to be involved and participate in the process. Okay, now I would entertain motion and a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Dr. Shipley has moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Campbell has seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Shipley?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Best?
Yes, let the record show that the meeting has adjourned at 7:42.